my name is Camille. I had top surgery back in 2020 because that was kind of the last thing I'd done. So I'm treatment resistant, or I was treatment resistant. And
So you transitioned so did you transition? Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. Today, I have this really awesome lady. Her name is Camille, and she detransitioned from female to non-binary, and now she lives as a woman. But anyways, her story is quite fascinating about her surgery and how it really, wow, it did some really messed up things to her body. So anyway, I hope you really enjoy the interview, and like, subscribe, because that's what you're supposed to say. Secondly, let me know what you think. And she has a ton of great information, and also give me some ideas of people to bring on. Okay, love you all so much. Don't forget, like and subscribe.
I guess so. The thing is, I don't quite know what, like, if you call it detrans or like, because like, I mean, I got it's like F to N, so female
to
choice.
female to non-binary. Is that
Yeah.
Oh,
I think I've seen like new choice or something. Like there's like some different terminology, but pretty much, yeah, to non-binary. So
okay,
I transitioned top surgery.
I see.
Um
Okay, right. So you got top surgery
yes.
and no hormones.
No hormones.
And so can I ask you why you chose just to do top surgery and no hormones?
I felt really uncomfortable with my breasts at that time.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it was something that I felt like, and I also felt uncomfortable with my femininity as well, but it's just like, there was just sort of like this real discomfort around my chest in particular. A little bit around the hips, but mainly with the chest area. And so that's why I did that.
Did you and honestly, if anything I say here, I respect your boundaries and I respect everything. So if anything is uncomfortable, please just say it's uncomfortable and we'll just move on, because I want to respect that. It's a very difficult conversation on some level, but I do appreciate you, and many people out there will appreciate your story. So you just had this uncomfortable, can I ask you your age?
Yeah, I'm 32.
So, but when you were going through all of this sort of turmoil, how old were you?
I was 30 and I identified as non-binary since like 2016.
Okay,
So
great.
yeah,
And so you started like dealing, so you really had like a dysphoria around your breasts, would you say that?
that was the big thing. I think also there was some, and this is, I think, an important part. I know this might be jumping ahead a little bit, but I had some trauma, like in grade school. It really screwed me up. Like I think that what happened is that my nervous system went up at that point because it just and then I started dressing more masculine. Like I was kind of, and then I kind of like went on and off with the femininity thing, but it was, I think that was like a huge turning point for me.
Do you think sometimes the trauma for women, I sometimes wonder, is transition or masculizing yourself on some level pushing away those feelings, right?
Yeah, I think it's a protection
A
mechanism.
protection mechanism. I'm wondering, and if I'm wondering if a lot of the younger people today are somehow dealing with trauma, right? I mean, trauma is so thick and heavy, and if you're not really getting any. So I want to ask you, did you go to a therapist by any chance?
Yeah, so I had been doing, and that was kind of the thing why I also decided to I don't know if you would call that transition, but
Sure.
pretty much why I decided to do that was because I was treatment resistant. I had done traditional talk therapy for about 20 years.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, so I mean, I had done everything. Like they would try and put me on medications and none of the medications would work. So
Right.
I mean, it was just sort of like, I also have ADHD and I couldn't take any ADHD medications because like the one that worked for me gave me dry mouth and I developed gum disease. And that was like, well, I can't do it. And so
Oh my God.
then the doctors were at a loss because it's sort of like, well, what do you do when, and then they put me on sertraline like further down the line. I know I've kind of all over the place.
Wait, did they want to give you test, or did you ever want to take testosterone, or was that just never really an option for you? It just was never gonna. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I like, they had talked to me about taking testosterone,
Mhm.
or even hormone, just I guess just hormones in general. And I was just like, I'd never felt like wanted to go that far. So
Okay.
that was kind of the one thing that
Right.
like, I never felt that need to be like, oh, I want to like take hormones. It was just the discomfort around the chest,
Yeah, that's
really.
right. So I think a lot of times the non-binary space to me, and the people I see who are, identifying that way are more like you. They don't necessarily want to go to the binary or even look binary, male or female, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, and what we used to call androgyny, that's kind of how I look at non-binary, as the androgynous sort of space, right? And so,
Hmm.
okay, so you were going to therapy and you were dealing with the dysphoria around your breasts. And can you tell me what your therapist were they diagnosing you with anything, or?
Well, one of my I remember there's one, and she was more conservative, and she was probably on the right track of that. Like, this is a trauma issue.
Yeah.
But even though I was seeing her like every week, I was never making progress.
Okay.
And now I look at that as bodily dysfunction, and also how like alternative therapies helped me through that, not
Yeah.
talk therapy, because
Yeah.
but like at the time I was like, I was so stuck to that ideology, and
Mhm.
kind of like, it's just like, all I can best describe is like a sickness of like, I just like kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing, even though that wasn't the right path of being non-binary. And I think a great example is one of my therapists said to me, Camille, you're digging the hole, but you're digging it deeper, or digging it wider. Like, you're not actually digging yourself out of the hole, you're just
Wow.
making a wider hole. And so that's what I was doing, was that I was just like, I kept going down this path of like, androgyny and non-binary, but it was never the solution. I think part of it too was that the talk therapy wasn't doing anything. It was
Mhm.
really alternative treatments that helped me out. So we talked about this a little bit, that I developed all these chronic health issues
That's right.
after my surgery.
That's right.
And what I found was that talking with one of my friends, who's a licensed massage therapist, and then also seeing videos online, is that scars cause issues, because like the good tissue like clings on to that. And like through all these alternative treatments, like my Raynaud's, I'd say, is probably like almost cured. Like, yeah, which is amazing, because they were like, everybody said to me, you're not going to reverse your Raynaud's. And
Right.
so I think part of it was the scars,
Mhm.
was from the Raynaud's, because like you look at Raynaud's, and one of the things that you can get Raynaud's from is from surgery. So
Wow. Okay. So we're going to talk about
yeah.
that, because it's I never heard of Raynaud's before. You're the first person who I actually, so you're in therapy, then you decide that talk therapy isn't so great for you. So you start going to more, what do you call that kind of therapy? Like,
Like I guess
um, this
alternative treatments or
alternative
holistic
treatment.
health. Yeah.
Great. I know you got top surgery. So,
Mhm.
so when during all this time that you were going to all these types of therapies, was it that you decided to make the choice of top surgery?
Okay. Oh, so sorry if I made it.
It's okay.
So actually, like I had been doing the conventional route.
Okay, right.
Then
I
I had
see.
top surgery.
I see. Before you went to
Yes.
these there. Oh, so without
Yeah.
any therapy, you had top surgery?
Yeah. Well, the thing was, I had done all this therapy. I'd done 20 years of talk therapy. I'd done
Okay.
hypnotherapy. I'd done
Okay.
DBT.
Okay.
Let's see here,
But all of
hypnotherapy.
that was that all
Yeah.
really geared towards your gender, or was it for all kinds of stuff that was happening with you?
It was kind of an in general thing. Like, and
Okay.
I mean, I did actually go to a therapist for gender, but it was like an affirming gender thing.
Yeah.
So it was just sort of like, yeah, you're non-binary. And
It's
so it's just like, no question
I think
about
it's
it.
so affirmative therapy. It's an oxymoron. It doesn't really make sense. Like,
Right.
why are you going to therapy? So they can say you're trans? Like, that's not what therapy is. You and I, I'm sure, are on the same.
Right. Yeah. It's just like that. That's just a self-confirmation bias right
It totally
there.
is. It's like, here's some money. Please tell me I'm good.
Right. Yeah. And oh my gosh,
Oh my gosh.
it's not good, because it's just like, it's just confirming it. But this,
Yeah.
and that's the
Yeah.
thing, is that like I have PCOS,
Mhm.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the other thing too, is just like, what's that perfect cocktail that creates somebody who's non-binary?
There you go.
Because it's just like PCOS,
Mhm.
I had ADHD,
Mhm.
generalized anxiety disorder.
Mhm.
What else generalized anxiety disorder,
Mhm,
CPTSD.
mhm.
So I mean, I had
Wow, wow,
the flu, and then at one point I
wow.
developed major depressive disorder. So, and that was like after my work. So that was like 2018. So I was really depressed, and at that point I'd done everything.
Uh-huh.
And then it's just sort of like, well, the last thing I haven't done is top surgery.
You were mostly around non-binary trans people? Was that your
Yeah, one of
group?
my closest friends from high school, or from grade school, actually,
Mhm.
she also is non-binary, and she's ADHD, has anxiety
Okay.
issues.
Wow,
So
interesting.
I'm like, yeah, there's some sort of pattern here
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
happening.
So you had top surgery and you were cool with it? Like totally cool, everything was fine?
I had actually mixed feelings after the surgery.
Mm,
Like right
okay.
after surgery, I was like, I don't know. But the thing was, like, the surgeon did her job, so it wasn't
That's right.
like I felt
That's right.
I felt bad. I felt bad for her or anything. Like it just
Right,
sort of like
sure.
she did what she was supposed to do. I was kind of surprised about how it was handled, because yeah, I had like 2 sessions to get me confirmed, like mental health. Like
Two
they had to
sessions.
like see me and make sure that I was mentally fit to do the surgery.
And how long were those meetings that you went to?
They were maybe an hour at most, and it was just
Okay.
two of them.
Okay, just two before you got to
But
see the
yeah,
surgeon. So you needed to get like a letter of recommendation, right? Is that what you were looking
right.
for your surgeon? And
So what had happened was that, like, I had the surgery, and right after the surgery I had issues swallowing. So my chronic health issues started like right after the surgery.
oh,
And so like that was kind of like I didn't even have like a a chance to really like cope with what was going on, or like really register what was going on, because I started developing the issues right afterwards.
oh wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, I had trouble swallowing. I woke up, something felt wrong, and like I flipped over the sheets and my feet were cold. And like I was like, okay, something's wrong with my feet.
Oh my
And then it
God.
got like worse, like they started discoloring, like becoming like pink at the ends and stuff. And then like I was trying, like it was like weirdly timed, because like it was the weekend was coming up, and so like I wasn't able to get in to see a doctor, and so I went into ER,
Mhm.
and they thought I had Raynaud's. And so
But
they
wait,
gave me a
what's
Valium.
rain? Could you just explain to everybody right now what Raynaud's
Right. And
is?
so
Yeah.
yeah, and so and I also want to kind of do a disclaimer, is that I believe I have Raynaud's, but kind of like how doctors handle it is that they're like, oh, you have Raynaud's, without actually like fully testing you for it.
Great.
But with
Great.
Raynaud's, your capillaries shrink, and so and there's usually discoloration.
Mhm.
And then let's see here, that like my hands and feet would get cold, particularly my feet were worse.
Mhm.
But I remember like there would be like multiple times a day I'd have to go into the bathroom, like get it like a foot bath, and like put hot water in it, because my feet would be so cold. So there's like, and it was just like for months, and then it would be like I would be holding something cold, and it would be really uncomfortable. So there's like some sort of like heightened response or something.
Did you eventually stop identifying as non-binary?
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
now identify as a woman. So
what happened there? What was the sort of point where you decided I'm no longer trans or non-binary?
it was working with like the NEET person in particular, and
Oh,
working with my gender and working through that.
right. So trauma
Yeah,
based. So really dealing with your trauma based stuff, right?
yeah,
And I, I don't know how you feel about this, but I don't think we do enough mental health care before we start putting hormones or moving people forward through surgery. These are life. I mean, look, this is a life changing space that you're never gonna
right.
come back from. So it's fascinating to me that we don't understand the importance. Because look, what you did? You did mental health, which put you in a whole other. Do you feel healthier from that space? As opposed to prior to that, feeling like you needed to be non-binary and have surgery, like, or
Mhm.
just does my question make sense?
Yeah, I believe so. So I feel the best I have in my entire life.
Mm,
So
interesting.
I mean
Yeah.
it's amazing. And but I mean I the only thing is like kind of going back a little bit, is that I think that's so insidious when people are like, well, you can just, I guess get implants or something at this point, where which is like
Oh,
it'll never be the same.
those are different than real breasts. Stop it, people.
Yeah,
Like you actually will never have your real breast back. And I mean, I don't know
never.
how you feel
Yeah.
about that. You could probably have trauma around that, my friend. And we need to
Yeah.
discuss that trauma that, young women who identify as non-binary, removing their breasts, but not really understanding the actual long-term effects of that. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so tell me about, do you have do you think you have trauma around your chest surgery?
I think that what trauma I had, it's been worked through. It's just more of like, for me, it's just like, okay, well, when I'm dating somebody, like
Yeah,
these are things I have to consider now, is
that's
like
right.
when I'm dating somebody, when I'm looking for a romantic partner, and I don't hold that against somebody for being like, I don't want to be with you because you've done this. Like that's gross, like to be like that, because I've heard like people kind of have that sort of
Sure,
mentality of
they
like,
do.
you need to accept me for this when I have this surgery. Like, and it's like, no, like that's not
No,
healthy.
that's right. You can't force people to like you. That's like ridiculous.
Exact that point. So really what I want to do is bring awareness to like alternative treatments like
Yeah, yeah.
NET, NET, PDTR, like
Mhm.
these sorts of body work treatments, because I think that's the thing with mental health, is that like I had done 20 years of that, and
Didn't work.
I think for most people it doesn't work. And
Yeah,
so it's like, really, there's these therapies out there that will actually work with the body, because
yeah.
and there's this idea of traumas in the body, like it's
Yes,
not in the head, like which is what we traditionally thought.
that's right.
And kind of getting that trauma out. But
So now you're back to living as a woman, right?
yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's totally chill. You're cool with all that, and do you feel? I guess my question to you is, do you feel more grounded living as yourself as a woman than you did prior?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
I would like to elaborate a little bit on that. Can you?
I
Yeah.
in general I feel more at peace with myself. Like, and there was like this real, like it's just, it's interesting because it's more at peace with myself. It's more of, I don't want to say, well, maybe enlightened a little bit,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
maybe a strong word, but it's like I've come to terms with who I am, and like I was lying to myself. And so that line, I think, is creating like that sort of disconnect with people.
Do you consider yourself a detransitioner?
I guess so. Like
Hmm.
I don't know if, because I know, because it's kind of like you don't want to step on anybody's feet, which I don't want to,
But
but I guess
whose feet are you gonna step on? This
true.
is the other thing I have. Why can't you, as a person who is in the space, have a voice? And that's why I'm giving you this voice, because I think your story is important. And I think, you actually did surgery. You actually removed your breasts. And that's not a
Yeah.
small thing. I mean, I personally don't think so. And it feels like you don't personally think it's just a small thing, right? And yeah, I see it in your face right now. I see this sort of sadness, and that really, it could actually make me cry
Yeah.
because it's
It's
yeah,
it's horrible, the whole thing I went through, just the doctors, like the
yeah,
I remember the trauma around the doctors, because
yeah.
that was probably one of the worst parts, was the doctors being dismissive of me and then diagnosing me as having psychotic fever, and then they stopped wanting to run tests on me, pretty much. And I got quite a few labs done, but nothing would show up. And I think that had the neurologist maybe taken the next steps, maybe they
Yes,
would have found something
yes.
wrong with my neurology, because I think that's what the issue was it was a neurological issue.
That's
Because
right.
I remember at night, like my neck would be burning,
Mhm.
and I took my temperature, and it was like fine, but it's just like, it was like the neck burning, it was the tinnitus. I briefly struggled with vertigo. um
Wow.
the Raynaud's, the tinnitus was so bad, and thankfully now it's just like I have mild tinnitus in one ear,
Uh-huh.
and that's it. But I
Yeah.
mean, like, to have tinnitus that loud
Oh no, I was
that you
married
can't
to a woman who
sleep.
had it. I was married to a woman who had that stuff.
Yeah.
It actually drove her insane. You had a bilateral mastectomy with nipple graft surgery.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yeah.
and you had complications. So could you talk about that?
Yeah, so that would be like the Raynaud's, the
Oh,
let's see here, the Raynaud's, the tinnitus, the swallowing, which swallowing did go away. I've also had skin discoloration issues since
surgery.
that happened. Like I remember like calling the neurologist and being like, my feet are cold. Is there any way that could be linked to the surgery?
Mhm.
Did I say neurologist? Sorry, my surgeon.
Your surgeon. It's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I called my surgeon, and I
Mhm.
remember like it was late at night, because like I was just like frantic when all this was happening.
Mhm.
I think that was just like an upregulated nervous system or something. But
Mhm.
I remember calling my surgeon, and she and her response was like, well, are you talking to a psychologist? And like that was, and I remember my ears, like like I could feel my ears burning, and they've been like slightly red ever since.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
so
so there's some sort of like weird, like there is some sort of like mental, like
uh-huh,
maybe it's like a neurological
mhm.
thing, but it's also like linked to trauma
But
that
which
seems
is
to be
linked to
happening.
your, do you think it's also linked to your mastectomy? So all of these sort of health problems happened after your mastectomy,
Yeah.
right? The more insane health problems really came out right after your surgery. So
Right.
so something got messed with in your
Yeah.
system. That's what people need to hear, how really drastic surgery is. It's not so kind of simple that I think we're kind of
Right.
making it like just go and get top surgery. It's not. It can
Mhm.
actually affect your health.
Right. And then that's the other thing, is just like talking to people who are like bodywork practitioners, like they know all about the scars and that the scars cause issues, but like your doctor's not going to tell you that. Like they're not
Never.
going to tell you that like
Nope.
good tissues being like that gnarly scar tissue is like clinging on to your good tissue, and it's going to like screw things up.
So
Like
that's a real thing. Is that an actual real thing? So the scar, the keloid, is that what they're called? Keloid, right? That when it rises up, or any, let's say you have
Mhm.
underneath here, that connects to healthy skin, but it can cause an actual problem within the body.
That's what my bodywork practitioners have told me. So like,
Wow.
yeah, like that, because like the thing is like they know, like they
Mhm.
work with people
Right.
who have scars, and it doesn't necessarily mean that every time they work on a scar it's going to resolve issues, but
Mhm.
they do know that it causes problems. Like there was and I have a story up on my YouTube channel where
Okay.
there was my a friend of mine, Claire, who's a licensed massage therapist. She was working with a woman who I believe it was like for 40 years or something, or like a decade. She had struggled with incontinence.
Mhm.
And what had happened was that she had a hysterectomy. And so she did work on the scars, and the woman's incontinence went away. Yeah.
Wow. No, this
Yeah.
is so fascinating to me. This is a whole other interview thing we can do. Wow. So that's right. So scars cause trauma. They can cause physical trauma, but I think, wow, I've never really even spoken about how it can actually cause internal trauma and
Yeah.
mentally, as well as because your healthy body has now been sort of like messed with, right? Because I've had
Yeah.
top surgery and I've had a full hysterectomy because I had a really horrible situation happen. So my history was not elective. It was actually to save my life. So that was traumatic I mean, literally pulled out my whole system, right? But then they just
Yeah.
let you go. And I'm
Right.
talking to people who do what's it called, pelvic floor. I'm doing that because I do think I have issues down there because of once you remove everything that's inside, right? Well, now you have this whole space that's missing stuff. And I heard, and it can actually go down. I mean, there's just so much trauma that can happen there that, that we as me and you are both biological females, uh, have to deal with that I think are not being addressed, right?
Yeah. And if you want, like, I can always like give you resources, because I know like different types of treatments
Excellent.
for.
Well, Camille, I really totally appreciate your time, and you're so awesome to share with the world, your story, and somebody will hear it. And I think, again, putting these stories out there are really part of you giving back to the community. And I think that just means a lot to me that you're willing to have the conversation because, maybe transition isn't for everybody. And, I think it's
Yeah, and
okay.
thank you for, and I really appreciate what you do as well, because it's so important that we have people from the trans community who are like, hey, like we shouldn't be transitioning kids like this.
Oh,
Like that's just,
oh,
it's so horrific. And thanks for like
thank
getting
you.
out there, and
Thank you. I
like
get
that's,
I get a lot of shit for it, but I don't care. It's just,
yeah.
I know in my heart, like it just doesn't matter. When people come at you, there's a reason for that. And if they don't want to hear what I have to say, that's okay. But I'm not going to stop nuts. I'm not going to stop bringing guests like you on and having the conversation that doesn't seem to be in our space. It only seems to be like, I'm happy, look at me. And I'm like, well, accept you. And there's a lot of people who made the wrong choice. And if we don't talk about the wrong choice, how do we know that there's people making the wrong choice and that there's kids out there suffering because they made the wrong choice and they don't know how to talk about it because they don't want to be ostracized from this community, right? When you just detransition, you're ostracized immediately. And I don't, that's not, you are part of the community as far forever and ever, my friend, you will be part of our community. And that's, we can't just say you're not part of the community because you made the wrong, you just took a wrong turn. That's all. And now you made the right turn, back. And so for me, you're part of the community. And that's what I want people to see. We can't just ostracize people because they aren't doing what we're doing. Right. So
Right.
thank you, Camille. I appreciate you so much. I'll put all her links and everything in the thing. And everyone, please feel free to reach out to her because she's very generous with her time. And anyone who wants me to interview with her different questions, send those to me and we'll check it out. Okay. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys later.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Buck.
Thank you.
Bye.